Hi, my name is Angela Murray, SHRM SCP, SPHR, and your favorite HR exam coach. And tonight, I'm going to help you to kickstart your study plan because I'm going to show you how to most effectively use the SHRM Bask. But before we get into that main topic, we are going to tackle our question of the week. And tonight's question of the week comes from Melissa M. And Melissa M. writes, "Hey Angela, how many months and about how many hours a week should I put into my study? I'm using the SHRM Learning Management System and a few other sources, but feeling frustrated that I don't pass many of the modules on the first try. I've heard you need to get around 70 to 85% to be successful on the real exam, and I'm very worried because my exam is coming up in a few months. I've been prepping now for about 4 months. What should be my study time?" Well, Melissa, that's a good question, but it does not have a definitive answer. The amount of time that you're going to need to study is dependent upon a lot of factors. It is going to be influenced by your organization and how aligned your organization is to SHRM best practice. It is going to be influenced by your experience. It's going to be influenced by your role in your organization. I urge you to shift your focus from how long to how. You want to make sure that you are studying effectively, not just for a long time. You want to make sure that you are using reliable resources and that you are extracting from those resources the key concepts that are outlined in the Bask. You also want to make sure that you are taking plenty of practice questions and practice exams so that you are benchmarking yourself against those proficiency indicators that are also outlined in the SHRM Bask. So you don't want to get too caught up on how long you're studying. You want to focus more on how effectively you're studying. I can tell you to study the SHRM Bask for 5 hours a week for 5 months. But is that going to be sufficient in preparing you for the SHRM exam? Probably not. So it's not about how much time. It is about how effectively you are using that time and what you're doing with the time and making sure that you have resources that you can rely on. And those resources are aligned with the way that SHRM structures their questions and also aligned with SHRM best practice. So first, make sure that your resource is sufficient. 2, make sure that you are aligning your study plan to the SHRM Bask. 3, make sure you are extracting the key concepts. And 4, make sure that you are benchmarking using practice exams and practice questions. If you do that, you'll be prepared and you won't have to worry about how long to study. You will just make sure that you are pulling the knowledge that you need to be successful on the exam. That's the most important part. All right. So I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, I cannot give you a definitive time. If I were to say a definitive time, though, I would say if all things are in alignment, everything that I've just named is in focus, then 2 to 3 months, 5 to 10 hours a week is going to be sufficient. But again, I don't want you to focus on time. I want you to focus on effectiveness. All right. Okay. Very good, Melissa. Thank you for your question. If you have a question for me, you could submit your question to hrexamprep@gmail.com and I will possibly answer your question on the next episode. Before we jump into our main topic, which I know everybody is so excited about, we are going to get into our next segment, which is the question breakdown. This is by popular demand. A lot of times everyone sends questions to me and you want to hear my rationale, or sometimes you're just struggling with questions and you just want to understand why the answer is what it is. And I get that because I was there, right? And so I've decided to put this segment together. We are going to tackle a new question every time this segment comes up. And I am going to talk you through the rationale for the question and why the answer is what it is or is not what we might traditionally think it to be. All right. So Tonight's question is going to come from a resource that I use pretty often. It's very reliable resources. And I think we're going to talk a lot more about the resources that you guys are using to make sure that you're getting something that is reliable and it is aligned with SHRM best practice. But tonight I'm going to use a very reliable resources that we may talk about on upcoming episodes. And the question comes from the consultation book. All right. So an HR team member is working on a critical activity that must be done in a very precise sequence with no room for innovation. Because the task is important, the HR manager monitors the team member's performance very closely. The performance is routinely satisfactory and often exemplary, but the manager notes that the team member seems to have low morale and a bad attitude. According to Herzberg's motivator hygiene theory, what can the manager do to reduce job dissatisfaction? And the answer choices are as follows. A, help the team member follow the process, but be creative in other ways. Stop supervising the team member so closely. Give the team member the chance to take paid training related to the work. Recognize the team member's efforts in the next team meeting. And the correct answer is B. Stop supervising the team member so closely. Let's talk about that question. So the basis of Herzberg's motivator hygiene theory is that motivation is impacted by two factors. There are your motivators and then there are your hygiene factors. So your hygiene factors are going to be those dissatisfiers and your motivators are your satisfiers. Dissatisfiers are things that are extrinsic and then your satisfiers are things that are intrinsic. So your dissatisfiers come from your environment. Those could be things like job security. It could be pay, the relationship with your coworkers, the quality of supervision that you are receiving. Those things come from the environment. Now, your satisfiers are intrinsic. They come from within. So that could be things like growth or recognition, development. According to Herzberg's theories, those two things, satisfiers and dissatisfiers, exist independently. There has to be an equal playing field for both. So if someone is dissatisfied, it is not enough to simply increase their satisfiers. You have to reduce the job dissatisfiers while also keeping the satisfiers at an acceptable level in order for that person to maintain motivation. So if a person is dissatisfied with their job salary and you offer them recognition, that is still not going to equal motivation because the dissatisfier has not been sufficiently overcome. If you want the person to remain motivated, you have to take care of the dissatisfier, which means you have to pay them more money, or you have to offer job security, or you have to increase the quality of supervision that you're offering them. And then you have to maintain those satisfiers as well. So this question says that this HR team member is being supervised too closely. That is the quality of supervision. That is a dissatisfier. The other answer choices say that we should give the employee training related to work. That is developmental. That is intrinsic. That is a motivator, right? That is not going to affect the dissatisfier. So that can't possibly be the right answer. Recognize the team member, also intrinsic. All of the other answers are satisfiers. We have to make sure that we decrease the dissatisfiers so the other answer choices won't make sense for us. So if we are basing this answer on Herzberg's motivator hygiene theory, as the question says, the only acceptable answer would be B. All right. Very good. I so enjoy breaking down those questions. I really enjoy the rationale behind questions and just seeing those questions come alive in like everyday workplace situations. That's my favorite part about situational judgment questions. They're not just a recall of information. They are actually putting what you've learned into practice. And I really enjoy that part. All right. But now it is time for what everyone has been waiting for. That is our main topic. How to use the SHRM Bask. On to the main topic, and that is how to use the SHRM Bask. So the SHRM Bask stands for the Body of Applied Skills and Knowledge, and it is a framework developed by the Society for Human Resource Management, and it outlines the knowledge and competencies that you're going to need in order to excel in your HR role. So in this way, it serves as the foundation for the certification exam. It guides the development of the exam content. It assures alignment with best practice as defined by SHRM. Now, I call the Bask the roadmap because embedded in it is exactly what you need to study and exactly what you're going to be tested on. So this becomes your guide. The SHRM Bask is organized into several key behavioral competencies and HR knowledge domains. These encompass various topics and skills relevant to the HR practice. Within each domain, specific HR concepts, terms, and foundational knowledge is outlined. These provide a comprehensive framework for HR professionals to develop and demonstrate proficiency in their field. So it's really like your own cheat sheet. The Bask contains both key concepts and proficiency indicators. The key concepts serve as the building blocks of each topic. These are the critical principles that you need to understand in order to grasp the broader knowledge of an area. So this is the core knowledge that you are expected to comprehend. The proficiency indicators serve as a benchmark. These are the criteria that indicate the level of mastery that is expected for each key concept or skill. The proficiency indicators help you to understand what is necessary to demonstrate proficiency in a subject area. Now we've defined the Bask. I'm going to tell you how to use it. First, let's talk about how to set up your study space to be most effective. Take a look at this study setup. I have my study questions set up on this stand, which is just a music sheet holder that I got from Amazon. You can get one too. The study questions, of course, correspond to the topic that I'm studying. Then I have the Bask open. Then I have my knowledge source. And finally, I have my notepad for taking notes. So the first thing you want to do is read through your key competencies in the Bask. We're using leadership here as our example. So one of the key concepts is leadership theories. While you're studying, you refer to the Bask and you go through your reading resource and you highlight these key concepts before you start reading. The highlight is going to help to draw attention to the key concepts and they'll stand out while you're reading and you can make notes as you come across those theories. That's going to help you to retain that information. Then when you feel you've mastered those concepts, you'll answer your practice questions. With the Bask still open, you'll turn to your proficiency indicators, and each time you answer a question, you want to determine which answer best demonstrates one of the proficiency indicators outlined in your Bask. Each time you answer a question, you link it back to the proficiency indicator. Now, obviously, when you take the actual exam, you won't have the Bask. But by that time, you will have had enough practice to make the connections without the Bask being in front of you. You will have trained your mind to link the questions to those proficiency indicators. And that is how you use the SHRM Bask. Perfect practice makes perfect results. So make sure that you are implementing the Bask in your study routine. It truly is your roadmap to success. You are going to need it to understand what you are going to be tested on. You need it to make sure that you are extracting from your study source exactly what you're going to need to be successful. So we're going to wrap up tonight with a segment that I call So This Happened in HR. And this segment is dedicated to the most outrageous times as HR professionals. So I've scoured the internet and I have compiled some of the funniest HR stories. You guys have sent me in a lot of your funny HR stories, and some of these are going to come from my own personal experience, but I'm not going to tell you which ones they are because I don't want you guys to know. And you probably don't want us to know which one are yours either. But if you do have funny HR stories, you don't have to include your name, but you can send those stories to hrexamprep@gmail.com, and I will read them with you guys each week. All right, so this one does come from Cameron Benzini, who doesn't have any problem sharing her name, and it reads, I'm a former HRBP in a mid-sized company. A woman once complained that someone in her department kept meowing and it was getting on her nerves. I asked the meowing woman to come to my office. I said, you're not in trouble, but apparently you keep meowing and a coworker asked us to address it with you. Her response was, this is America. I have freedom of speech. And what happens if she sees a cat in a commercial and the cat meows? Does she get mad at the cat? To which I replied, well, no, because it's a cat. It's expected to meow. This went on for some time until she finally agreed to stop meowing. There was no reason for the meowing. She just wanted to meow. You know what would have been? What would have been even funnier is if she had gone to her desk and started barking. I've learned that you have to be very, very specific when you're talking to your employees, because once I told my employee that they couldn't arrive to work 15 minutes late every day, I specifically said, when you're arriving to work late 15 minutes every day, you are losing over an hour of production time. And so that employee started to reduce the time they were late to like 10 minutes and 8 minutes that they were late. And when I called them aside again, I said, listen, you can't continue to be late. The employee said, well, I'm not 15 minutes late anymore. It's less than 15 minutes and I'm not losing an hour of production time. So from that conversation, I learned that you have to be very, very specific. You have to say you cannot be late at all. You must be on time, right? All right, guys. So that wraps up for tonight. I thoroughly enjoy connecting with you guys again. Don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can get notifications every week when I drop a video. We are going to be tackling so many topics in HR exam preparation. Some of them will be fun, but some of the things that you're going to need to know. Next week, we're going to have a very special guest. She is going to give you some gems about the studying of your HR exam because she is a newly credentialed professional. I am so excited to have her. So don't forget to tune in next week. Like and subscribe. See you guys.